Hi there. In this module, we're going to fully develop Napoleon Hill's first of his 13 steps, and this was how to build a burning desire. We talked about this a little bit in the last module. Here, we're going to give you 6 very specific things that you can do to build that desire for yourself. The first one is we're going to develop some goals here. You need to have some goals that get you excited when you get out of bed in the morning. Um, it just happens. This is a perfect time for me to be recording this video. I'm currently doing a online leadership class for the university, and I've got 25 students in the class. And their first project was to give me a list of their of 10 major goals that they want to accomplish in the next 5 years. I basically gave them this format, and this is what they turned in. And I spent this morning at 6 o'clock in the morning grading their assignments, and it was so exciting to see the type of things that they are putting down. This is a group that, by and large, they're from age probably 20 to 30, and the stuff they want to do in the next 5 years would get anybody excited. They were just fired up. You could just see it in how much detail and emotion they put into how they wrote their goals and the format and with a plan. It's just spectacular what can be done when you really understand how to do it. And for most people, everybody knows it's one of those things like we talked about in the last chapter. People know they should have goals, and even maybe they do have some goals, the New Year's resolution and that sort of thing, but they don't really know how to do it. Well, by the end of this module, you're going to really know how to do it. And if you follow through and actually do it, you will be as excited as I was in reading the goals from these students. That's spectacular. And when you think in perspective, I made a comment at the end of my post in the online course. I happen to be doing this recording right after we are still involved in the pandemic issue with the coronavirus. That has wreaked havoc on the country and really the world for the last 2 or 3 months. So that's been negative, just nonstop negative news in the press. The economy has tanked as a result of it. So a lot of these students are probably looking at the worst job outlook in probably the history of the country. And then to top it off, right now, there happen to be all of these riots and looting and stuff going on in the streets in many of the big cities all around the country. So we're talking uh, pandemic and virus issues, economy issues, the racial unrest and all the societal upheaval nonstop in the news. You would not believe that these 25 students are living on the same planet as the rest of us. The rest of the media and the public, everything is negative and unhappy. You read these goals, you would be excited. So that is our objective. If you understand this, you can feel this way all the time. No matter what's going on the outside, internally, you're going to be a star. So, okay, number one. Now Napoleon Hill never uses this term of SMART goal. This didn't really exist back then. But if you've been to college or any kind of productivity training, you may have been exposed to the idea of a SMART goal. Basically, your goal should be specific, measurable, attainable, although I'm going to modify that here in a minute. The R stands for realistic, and the T stands for time-based, time deadline. That's the way in modern terms we usually do, the way I normally teach it at the university. So he's talking about definite, specific, but he adds something that the SMART goal thing doesn't usually do, but it's really valuable. Number two, what are you willing to do to accomplish the goal? When I ask students, do they want to be rich? Of course, they raise their hand. First of all, rich is a crappy goal. It's not what? Specific. It's not really measurable. What is rich? So it doesn't meet Hill's first criteria, definite and specific. So get that first. Put a dollar amount on it. I want to have this much money. But very important and often neglected. What are you willing to do? We're not trying to win the lottery here. We're trying to, what are you going to do to accomplish the goal? Almost every great goal has a price to be paid. And you have to determine what are you willing to pay the price? We're not sitting around daydreaming. That won't get you very far. So we're going to want to come up with, what are you willing to do? Put a date on it. The last T, the T in SMART, put a date on it. Now, definite plan of action, where this sort of fits with the SMART goals. If you read on SMART goals, the A usually stands for attainable. It is something that's attainable. Now, I don't like that because to me, that's very close to realistic. So to me, there's duplication there. So what I've done is take the attainable and change it to action oriented. And that ties in nicely with Napoleon Hill's plan of action. So when you're doing goals, I think, yeah, it certainly should be attainable, but that's realistic. On the goal sheet, your plan should be a series of bullet points, 5 or 10 things on your plan.
I'm on it.
5 or 10 things that you should be doing to accomplish the goal. Does that make sense? I hope so. And you're going to obviously put the whole package in writing. And then you want to read it to yourself twice each day as if it's already achieved. You're going to read the statement twice each day as if it's already achieved. And don't feel bad if you want to read it more. If you want to be even more successful, faster, go ahead. Don't listen to me. Do it multiple times a day. Ideally, you want to have these with you at all times. And most people nowadays are putting it into their smartphone, which is normally with people almost all the time. And you want to read it, and you do it with emotion. It's ideally read out loud, although a lot of people don't do that. If you're alone and can do it, that it makes a difference. Closing your eyes and visualizing what it would feel like when you attain the goal, those will all make this more powerful. So that's the big thing in the chapters, coming up with these 6 steps. And you're going to enjoy doing it because you could tell from those students who did my exercise, they were pumped, and you will be too. Now, if you have some goals that really mean something to you, you'll be into it. Now, action steps, what I want you to do is actually implement this. Before you go on to something else, as soon as you get done listening to my little recording here, you should make a list. This is basically what those students had to do for their project. Although I think I had them do 10 goals. But make a list of your 5 major goals that you want to achieve. Again, these should be big things, important things that matter. Follow the SMART formatting: specific, measurable, realistic, put a deadline on them. That's, apply these 6 steps. Now I'm going to modify this a little and show you how you would actually implement it in a minute. But I'm going to use the analogy of a 3x5 card, even though I know most of you will do this in a to-do list format kind of thing in your smartphone. However you want to do it, whatever technology you want to use, doesn't matter. The 3x5 card thing works just fine. You want to carry it around with you and for at least 21 days. That's the minimum time. We usually refer to the idea that it takes after 21 days, you'll form the habit. So you want to carry them around, read them twice a day with feeling, with emotion, and we want you to really do it. And after 3 weeks, I want you to evaluate, how do you feel? After 3 weeks, you're going to sort of have a habit that'll probably last a lifetime. And if you really do it, and your goals are really motivational, and these shouldn't be little things like, gee, my goal is to go to the laundromat this week. This should be 5 things that are sexy and get you going. So, okay, now I'm going to give you a little modification. When you're doing your 3x5 card, you've got the goals listed on the top with a deadline. You've got action steps listed below. That's the bullet points. Then flip the card over. And now it's difficult for me to do that showing you on the slide really, but what you want to do is flip the card over. And remember, Napoleon Hill, part of his 6 steps was, what is the price you're willing to pay? So on that card somewhere, write what is the big thing? Why don't you have it already? If this is a goal you want, there's a reason you don't have it. There's something you have not been willing to do. It's either a monetary price, it's more likely a time price, or it's a lot of work price and you haven't been willing to put in the time, put in the work. Maybe it's a pain. Well, it'll be painful to go on a diet. It'll be painful to get a part-time job to get some extra money to invest. It'll be painful to go to take a class on real estate investing so you can become a real estate tycoon. What is it? What is the price? So I want you to identify it on the card. And then somewhere right there on the card, state affirmatively that you're willing to do it. Commit to doing it. This is important. And then also on the back of the card. Now, Napoleon Hill doesn't really talk about this, but I'll just give you a little value added. It psychologically will help a lot. List on that card why you want to do it. If it's losing weight, why do you want to lose weight? There are logical reasons and there are emotional reasons. Logical, I want my blood pressure to go down. Logical, I want my cholesterol to go down. Emotional might be, gee, I want to look better so I can get a date Saturday night. I want to look better so I'm more popular. Now those maybe are harder to say out loud, and maybe you don't say those to other people, but be honest with yourself. It's perfectly okay to have your reasons, the whys, be both logical and emotional, and maybe even irrational. That's okay. We're trying to be honest here. If you feel it, put it down. But that's what should be on the back of your card. Carry those do it for 3 weeks, and I'll bet you it's going to make a difference. Here's an example of how I would set up if you wanted to lose weight. A couple of issues here. Notice the top there is clearly marked. It's specific. It's I want to weigh 175 pounds. This is not, I want to lose weight. A couple things that Napoleon Hill didn't really talk about, but with the psychology or psychological information we now know about goal setting, these are all things that will help. You want to state the goal in first person, say I, and you want to state it positively rather than negatively. You maybe weigh 195 pounds. So the obvious thing is to say, I want to lose 20 pounds. Well, psychologically, losing 20 pounds is not as effective on your subconscious level as it would be to say, I want to weigh a slim, trim, athletic 175 pounds, or however you want to phrase that. But state it as a positive thing that you aspire to. It in your ideal world, you want to look like you weigh 175 pounds and you're athletic and slim and trim. That was the other thing. You stated in present tense, like you already weigh that. So you're telling your subconscious mind, I weigh 175. And your subconscious mind believes what you tell it. Whether it's a little hard for you to deal with that psychologically sometimes, but just believe it. The next module is about having faith, and you're going to want to, have faith. Start here when you read the goals. Start here while you read the goals. Okay, so that's how you state the goal. Just a short, concise, following the methodology I just described. Then you put a date on underneath. Now, the reason I put question marks there kind of depends on what you weigh now. Remember, we want the goal to be realistic. If you weigh 300 pounds, it is not realistic. Now, it is realistic to say my goal is 175, but not in 3 months. Unless we're going to cut off body parts, you're not weighing 175 in 3 months. On the other hand, if you weigh 180 and want to weigh 175, putting a date 3 months out in the future is perfectly reasonable. So this will be depending on your goal and what you realistically believe is possible. And it might be different for different people too, based on, lots of different factors. So start with the goal, the date directly under it. And then here's some potential. Now yours might be different. I just put these down as an example. Maybe I want to go online and research weight loss. So I learn how many calories do I have to cut out to lose a pound. And so I go online and go to a couple websites, medical websites, and it says I have to lose around 3,000 calories to lose 1 pound. Well, now I know that. I can use that to develop some strategy on how many calories I have to eat less, or maybe I want to do a combination of eat less and move more. So I maybe go to I see commercials for Nutrisystem, Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, all those things. I'm going to go online and pick one. So that might be step 2. I'm going to go online, pick one, order the stuff, and implement the plan. And then I'm also going to do some exercise. I'm going to pick a schedule. Maybe 1 day a week or 3 days a week I do aerobic. I play basketball, I jog, you walk, depending on what you like and what you don't. Pick something. Set up a schedule. Anaerobic, I want to lift weights, I want to do calisthenics, whatever it is. I'm going to do 100 burpees. By the way, I don't recommend that. You do 100 burpees, you're going to die. So we got problems there. So pick what works for you, or at least you think will work. But it's an action step. It's something you're going to do. Maybe you're going to go online, buy an app to record all your calories so you can keep track of how much you're eating, so you can watch to see how you're doing on your monitoring your success. Maybe you want to just hang around skinny people. There's a concept called about you are the average of the 5 people you hang around most. So you're the average income of the 5 people you hang around most with. Maybe it applies to weight too. So if you're a little bit heavy, hang out with skinny people, you'll probably lose weight. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but every one of these doesn't have to be brilliant. Find good snacks. Find something that you like, that will have fewer calories. This is not, I need a snack, eat a bag of chips. Maybe it's, I need a snack. For me, I have found, a popsicle. I can have a popsicle, it's only 40 calories, takes a long time to eat if you don't chew on it. Just suck on it, takes a long time, satisfies your urge, and you can make it to the next meal. Maybe you want to join a gym. Maybe you want to hire a trainer. So put a list of action steps together. And remember, success is easier than failure. If you look at my logo on websites and for many years on my syllabus at the university, I've always put success is easier than failure. And I always sort of thought I came up with that on my own. And there's sort of a backstory to that, which I won't take the time to tell right now in my own life, how it kind of impacted me. But in my mind, it's easier to be successful than to be a failure, because being a failure is hard. And even though a lot of people think doing those things required of success is hard, I have found it's not as hard to pay the price because it avoids the failure. It's easier to succeed. Now, in the Napoleon Hill book, I've read this book many times, and one of the more recent times that I've gone through it, I always thought I came up with success is easier than failure on my own. I read this line, which is in the book, and I'm starting to wonder, I think subconscious, on a conscious level, I may have come up with success is easier than failure. I got a feeling on a subconscious level, I read this quote, no more effort is required to aim high in life, succeed, or to demand abundance and prosperity than is required to accept misery and poverty. I don't know, the last time I read the book, I saw that line, which I probably planted in my subconscious mind 15, 20 times. And I got to thinking, gee, that's pretty close. Now, the language is a little quirkier and harder and longer, but fundamentally, that is what I've been saying for decades now. Success is easier than failure. And Napoleon Hill also has a famous quote in the book, and you'll see it when you read the book. Every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success. And you're going to need that quote. You probably want to write that on a 3x5 card, carry it with you. It'll come in handy. Because the time is going to come, you're going to do all these goal setting things and you're going to be all pumped, but you're going to get slapped in the face. Life has a way of doing that to you. Every failure, you are going to get knocked down. So every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success. So as bad as you feel when something happens and you think the world is going to end, no, it isn't. A greater opportunity is going to come. I'll give you one example from my life. I retired at kind of my early 50s from the teaching in California. I spent most of my career in California, made a lot of money on the side in real estate. Everybody told me I should retire, so I did. Retired to Wisconsin, where I grew up. Pretty much miserable for a couple of years because it was too early. I was not the right personality to retire, and I was kind of miserable, missed teaching. So I applied for a teaching job that popped up near my house or where I live. And it wasn't a great job, but it was teaching in front of a classroom. So I applied, had the interview, was offered the job, but the salary sucked. The salary was terrible. And so I sort of said to him, I tried, by the way, could you raise the salary a little bit? No, I did it nicely, but I said I kind of expect a higher salary. And I thought we were going to negotiate. And they said, well, they'll think about it. And a week or so later, I got a letter saying I was turned down. And I was really, it's hard to even describe how disappointed I was, because I whined about the salary, which was actually unimportant to my finances. It was more of a pride thing than I did not need the salary. Shouldn't have told them, but I would have probably done it for free just to get in front of a classroom. And I was just destroyed. It was like, oh my gosh, That was my chance and I blew it. So I was really second guessing myself and feeling sorry for myself and how pitiful I am. And then within a week or two after that, when I thought I was done, another university about an hour away from my house came up with a position. I applied for it, interviewed, got the position. It was a much better job, 10 times better position than I had been turned down for. And I wouldn't have been even looking for it had I gotten the first job. So the world works in mysterious ways. If I had gotten what I wanted, I would have been screwed. By having a failure there, it set me up for a bigger success with the new position, which literally paid twice as much money as the first one. That's how this happens. And I can come up with other examples of that. What's your example? I'll bet you have something in your history like that, where you thought it was the end of the world, turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Kind of what we're talking about here. And Napoleon Hill identified that. See you in the next module.